And let me get on to our panel discussion, because one of the things that we do here at .com Live, FoxNews.com Live, is we have a poll. And one of the polls that you can go on FoxNews.com and take is the question about the World Trade Center cross. Should a cross be part of the World Trade Center memorial? Yes, it's a symbol of strength. No, it should not have a religious affiliation, or not sure. And the reason why we're bringing this up is because the American Atheists have filed a suit against the museum, the 9/11 museum, saying the cross that was fused at the time of the actual attack, is now at a center of the memorial, and the atheists say it should not be. I want to bring in the panel to discuss this, because it's a very, very hot topic here in New York, because it seemed like a no-brainer that everybody should just acknowledge the cross, and now we've got this controversy. I want to bring in Dr. Jeff Myers, who is the chairman of the board of Summit Ministries out in Denver. Thank you very much.
Hey, Lauren.
And also Bob Carl is a professor of theology at King's College here in New York City. There is a Christian college here in New York. It's a very interesting kind of concept. People are kind of surprised at that. But then also Rabbi Brad Hirschfield is here. He's a Fox News contributor and author of You Don't Have to Be Wrong for Me to Be Right, Finding Faith Without Fanaticism. Thank you so much.
Good to be here.
So as we're talking about, the World Trade Center cross is at the center of the controversy, because if many remember the imagery after the 9/11 attacks, the building was in rubbles, but somehow the scaffolding, the steel beams that are cross-section stood up, and it was, of course, people looked at it as a symbol of the Christian cross. And that memorial, that emblem is now part of the museum, and the American Atheists have filed a suit saying you have to take that down. And let me read you what the David Silverman of the American Atheists wrote. He said, members have seen the cross either in person or on television and are being subjected to and injured in consequence of having a religious tradition, not their own, imposed upon them through the power of the state. Now, one person remarked that this argument is downright delusional. But, Jeff, why don't you comment on that? I mean, this is something that we're confronting more and more, is this controversy over, religious symbols being in public. What do you think about the atheists?
Well, I've met some of the people in the American Atheist group and some of these other groups, and I got to tell you, they are some of the grumpiest people I've ever met. They're like Eeyore on steroids, and they all have this. They all have this idea.
I love that feel. Okay.
They have to have their view expressed at the expense of every other view. That's their idea. They're not trying to get more speech. They're trying to shut down any contrary speech.
Yeah. Well, Rabbi, this is interesting because, we would expect this controversy from someone who had a strong faith tradition, a Jewish tradition, or even a Muslim tradition. We don't hear it. We hear it from the atheists.
Right. Classically, people who are attached deeply and healthfully to any particular faith can find common ground with people who are attached to other faiths, because they understand the role that faith can have in healing in the face of a crisis. So it's not going to be entirely surprising that you don't have traditionally observant Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, whatever, objecting to this. It actually isn't. I do think we have to proceed with caution, though, and I say that as someone who believes the cross has an important place, not just a place, but an important place at ground zero. And it's not a theological claim. Obviously, I'm not a Christian.
Right.
The importance of its place is it is a part of the history of coping with the murderous attack. And it played an important role for thousands of people in the months, weeks, even days following the attack. And so to cut that out of the story would be a mistake. I do think we have to be cautious about what role it plays and how it's positioned. There's a difference between what the atheists are demanding, which is excising any religious symbolism from the site because that bothers them, which strikes me as entirely misguided. It is the kind of shutting down that Dr. Myers referred to, but I also think, in all candor, with great respect, we have to be careful about not characterizing those who disagree with us in disparaging ways. I think there are genuine fears they have. I don't think they're all grumpy and Eeyore-like any more than they believe that religious people are all coercive and aggressive and totalitarian. I think what both sides have to do here is step back from this brink and not ask, what is the theology of the cross at ground zero, but what is the role of that physical artifact in the history of the weeks and months following the attack?
But this is an interesting thing, because if you're a Christian and somebody says, oh, this is about history than faith, I mean, I don't know if most Christians would even agree with that, and that's almost like saying, okay, you're kind of insulting my religion, but I'll do that in order to get it, to make sure it stays there. Bob, what do you think?
Well, this is the lemon test that that's been precedent in the United States for a generation or two. Religious symbols are not allowed in public spaces, but cultural symbols are. So we have to make the case that this is a cultural symbol or a symbol of strength.
Right. Well, and you're right, it's a cultural symbol in that the cross has become sort of a symbol of many things. We see them on the roadsides, and many of those roadside crosses for accidents have actually been challenged as well. So, but it's different from a crucifix, which would be the sign of Jesus on the cross.
Again, different to different people. I think the problem with the question you raised, Lauren, is that if this comes down to, on our terms, whoever the our is, be it religious Christians, people of other faith, or atheists, it's another faith all by itself, even though they don't like to admit it, it cannot be this is on our terms and only on our terms. That's how nothing gets done. In fact, what both sides ought to be looking for is how can we get as much of who we are acknowledged in public in ways that others can live with. And then we shift the debate from cross to no cross to why would you cut me out of a memorial that's a part of what I experienced.